All right. First movie of 2025 that I will be reviewing, Wolfman, which is essentially, I'm assuming it's a remake of the Universal film. I haven't seen the Universal one in like so long, but I think it's pretty accurate. The focus is kind of on, well, we'll get spoilers out of the way. So spoiler alert, you know the deal. You've been warned and you can stop it now. That's more than enough time. So anyway, it's a werewolf movie, obviously, and it's more focused kind of on the transformation and what the guy deals with as he's dealing with this transformation and whatnot versus, well, there's a fair good amount of werewolfy stuff too, actually. So let's just get right into it. Give you a little bit of a synopsis here. So I don't remember the characters' names, which is awful. I guess I could have Googled it right before I started this, but you know what? Whatever. So I know the daughter's name is Ginger, so that's the one I know. Anyway, first scene we have Buddy and his dad going hunting. They're doing a hunting trip in Oregon. That's where they, I guess, live or whatever. And the father's a little bit militant, so I mean, like, first thing in the morning, he makes his kid, like, bake his bed to, like, military standards, and he's using military time, like, 0700 we leave, all that stuff, and the boy is saying yes, sir, and all that stuff, and no, sir, and whatever. So, I guess it's, yeah, very militant family. Anyway, they're going on their hunting trip, and he's telling them things about nature, like, don't eat the mushrooms and whatever, and the boy kind of gets distracted. He's like, what did I say? He's like, don't eat the mushrooms. Yeah, and? I don't know. Anyway, pay attention, boy. God damn it. Anyway, as he's lecturing his son, he hears a crack, and he turns, and he sees a deer. He's like, okay. That was fast. Let's do this. Takes his gun off, aims to the deer, but just as he gets the deer in focus, it walks behind like a log or something that's out of sight. So he's like, shit. While this is going on, the kid he goes off trail to try to get a cleaner view of the deer, I guess. He wants to impress his dad, right? Anyway, dad turns around and boy's gone. He's like, oh shit. He's calling out. Anyway. Little boy is further down into the woods there, and finds a nice little log to perch behind, and he's aiming, and he sees a figure standing between some trees, and he jumps for a second. He wasn't expecting that. And he looks back to the sights where it is, and it's gone, clearly. Yeah, so the father catches up, and he's like, son, you can't, like, wander off like that. You have to stay put with me, okay? It's like, I thought I was going to get a better shot of the deer. And then they hear some weird-ass noises in the bush. And it's not a deer. It's not an elk. It's something carnivorous sounding, so that's good. So they say, okay, let's get out of here. Let's get up into that. There's like a little, what are they called? The hunter little box. It's like a shelter on legs, and you kind of hide out there, and you've got kind of a bird's eye view a little bit. Anyway, they climb up to one of those, whatever those are called. I'm not a hunter, I don't know. They climb into that, and they're looking around, and they hear an elk noise, and then they hear something, and the elk is killed. And they look down, and they see the elk is like disemboweled, and good times. Then this thing starts. Yeah, the father gets it in its sights, and he almost shoots it, but he doesn't. He's not able to, and anyway. They survive, and it tries to climb up or whatever, and it doesn't get up. But either way, they get out, and they run back to the cabin, and that's that. And he tells the kid it was a bear or whatever. There's lots of bears in the area and whatnot. But later that night, the kid wakes up, and he hears his dad talking on like a shortwave radio to some guy on the other end. And he's saying to the guy, I saw it. And he's like, saw what? And he's like, you know what I saw. Damn well almost shot the thing too. He's like, oh shit, okay. So apparently there's knowledge that there's something in the woods that ain't a bear, and it's not human, and it's not particularly anything anyone knows. So that's also fun. Anyway, the kid overhears it, and the dad turns and is like, oh shit. Anyway, cut to the future where a little child is now Buddy, a full-grown guy. He'll be known as Buddy for this review. He's married, he has a kid. Little kid's name is Ginger. I don't remember the wife's name, but she exists, so that's fun. And they're not exactly like on the verge of divorce or anything, but they're having some relationship difficulties. There's a little bit of distance between them, I guess. And he receives a notice that his father has passed away, and basically they live in like New York or something like that. I assume it's a big city or a bigger city. I don't know what city it is. My American geography is not top notch, so I apologize. Anyway, they have to go out to, or he has to go out to Maine. Oh my God, Oregon. Completely different. Okay, I'm not that stupid. I know Maine's here and Oregon's here, or well, I guess this way. I don't know what way the camera's showing, but anyway, opposite sides of the country. So he has to go to Oregon to go to his dad's estate, I guess, and pick up his dad's stuff, which everything's been left to him, I guess. I don't know if he's gonna sell the cabin or whatever, but it's out in the boonies. Like, it's not in a city by any means. It's like a rustic little off-road kind of cabin-y thing. Anyway. So he meets his wife outside of her work, and wife is like a journalist or something, and he's a writer, but he's between jobs, so it's kind of like just a full-time dad, essentially. But he meets with the wife and says, listen, I think it'd be good for us as a family. You guys should come out with me to Oregon, and we can stay there for a week or something, and just, you know, you can spend time with Ginger, and, you know, it'll be good for us to get out. And she's like, yeah, but I have work, and I don't know if I can do that. And he's like, oh, you can work remotely. And what do you mean? Why can't you do that? And she's like, well, you know, I don't know if I remember how. And he's like, what are you talking about? How to hang out with her daughter. And that's kind of like, oh, shit. Okay, yeah, we definitely need to go on this trip then if that's the case. So they do. They go on the trip. And basically cut to them in like a U-Haul looking thing. It's not a U-Haul. It's like, was it Pinnacle or whatever? I don't know. They're in a U-Haul, I'm just going to call it that for a lack of a better thing. And they're driving down this kind of offbeat road through the woods and mountainous areas and everything. Definitely interior Oregon, not coastal. You got the mountains, you got the forest, all that stuff, like hills. And anyway, he's driving down what he thinks is the road to get to his dad's place, and there's a gated off area. And then he sees another one of those little hunter box things, whatever they're called, on legs. And there's a guy standing in there, and he comes down, he's like, hey, can I help you? He's like, yeah, I'm looking for my dad's estate. He's like, oh, who's your dad? And he tells him, he's like, oh shit, you're insert name. I'm insert name. Sorry. It's like, oh, you're insert name's kid. Okay, I remember. Yeah, this is my brain, right? I can remember Ginger, but like literally no other names. Anyway, they kind of half-ass recognize each other, and he's like, okay, well, this is actually my property, but I know where your dad lives. He's a little bit down there. I can, you know, jump in and show you. And so he does. And the wife's a little bit wary. She doesn't know who this guy is, but she gets in the back seat anyway. And they start driving down the road. It's getting a little bit darker or whatever. And all of a sudden there's a man standing in the middle of the road. So he swerves, but he ends up swerving a little too hard and going off like the edge of not a cliff, but like a really steep slope. Rolls the vehicle, and it's on its side, and essentially it's kind of like in the trees above the ground, maybe 10 feet off the ground or something. And yeah, the guy that was helping them goes to open the door, but he falls out because it's on its side, and he's like, oh shit, and he falls on the ground. He's like, oh. Anyway, that's when something gets him, grabs him, drags him off, kills him. Wonderful, right? So the wife and the kids are in the back seat, and Buddy's in the front, and they're trying to like get the hell out of there. And this thing is clawing through the window. It ends up scratching Buddy. So right there and then, you know anything about the wolf man. Okay, well, he's scratched. This thing's obviously a werewolf, so Buddy is now cursed. Sucks to be Buddy. But they get away, essentially. They make it to the house. They're going through the woods, and they're like, oh shit, that's the house, and they're running up, and this thing is coming behind them, and he's quickly fumbling with the keys, and they get inside and close the door, and just in the nick of time, because this thing is smashing into the door trying to get in. But he's pretty hurt, so he gets patched up and tells his wife, essentially, like, there's a ham radio, we can hook it up. He gets the generator going. She tries to reach people to see if anyone can help, and this thing is like stalking around outside. Lucky for them, it, I guess, doesn't know how windows work, so that's fun. But well, they show one of the doors has a big window on it, and there are bars on it, so I guess maybe that's why. Maybe the windows have bars on them. I don't really know. But anyway, it keeps trying to get through the door, and he pushes this big cabinet in front of it, and starts nailing it to the wall, and he nails a board on the ground so that the cabinet can't move forward, so that if you open the door, even if you could push it, it's stuck on this board now. So that's actually pretty clever. I'll give him props for that one. But he's not doing too good. He's getting a little bit weak and looking a little rough around the edges. The wife's like, what's going on? And he's like, I don't know, I'm not feeling great. She looks and sees the cut and assumes that like the window cut him when he was climbing out of the vehicle or something. Anyway, later on, I guess the thing seems to calm down a little bit. It's not like trying to break in anymore, but you can see it, or you can hear it occasionally walking around, and then he hears something from inside the house. And he's like, oh shit. And he goes down the stairs, and he opens the stairs, and he's looking, and he sees a little spider on the wall, and he's like, okay, that's fine. But then he notices that the legs, as it's crawling on the thing, are actually making the noises that he's hearing. So he's like, what the hell? Yeah, he has like super hearing now, basically. So the sound of the spider, like each foot on the wall, sounds like a bang to him, essentially. So he's starting to turn, clearly. Then there's like, they show a scene of his vision too, so you can like hear what he's hearing, you can see what he's seeing. The contrast switching between his vision and his family's vision is really cool. So initially it starts out, everything's just a little bit lighter, like you can kind of see better in the dark, but as he starts transforming more and more, they do this really cool kind of, it's not really night vision, but it kind of is. Like everything looks like daylight, sort of, but like you can tell it's dark but daylight, and there's like glowing things, and like the eyes are glowing and of like his family and stuff, and he can see like perfectly in the dark, essentially. Anyway, he is getting worse. Like he's lying down, he's doing bad. Little girl's really worried. He's patched up the best his wife could get him, but he starts to, as the vision intensity, like the night vision intensity increases, he starts not really being able to understand what his family is saying, and he's not really able to speak either. And his wife is like, okay, I'm gonna bring you a pad of paper, and you tell me like, what do you need? What are you feeling? Can I help anything? And what's going on with you? And he writes basically in kind of like scribble text, dying. He thinks he's dying, essentially. Well, she's like, no. You're patched. You're sick. You might have like an infection of some kind, but you're gonna be good. We're gonna get you taken care of. I'll keep trying the ham radio or whatever. Anyway, he starts losing his hair a little bit too now at this point, and his tooth came out, and like he thought maybe he bumped his mouth on the steering wheel when they crashed or whatever, but parts of him are deteriorating. At one point, the wife comes in again to check out, and his arm, like right here, she pulls the bandage off, and it's to the bone now. And she put peroxide on it and everything, like it should be good, but or not. Was it peroxide? Whatever it is, iodine or iodine or whatever that liquid shit is that stings when you put it on a cut. She did that, so it shouldn't be infected, but it's like down to the bone, and he starts scratching at it more, which is like, ugh. It was it was an icky scene. And then he starts biting it and chewing it and like eating his own arm, and it's like, okay, that was a pretty intense scene. Done for the practical effects for it were pretty solid. If it was practical effects, if it was CGI, then it was very well done. So anyway, gross. But he's starting to lose it a bit. Like he's regained his like strength and stuff, and he can walk around and whatever. But that's pretty much it. He goes to lie down again, and the wife is on the radio saying something along the lines of like, my husband is here. He's really, really sick. He doesn't realize he's sick. He can't talk. He's acting very strange, blah, 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 blah. And then you switch to his vision, and he's in the dark watching her with her in the same room. But the room's so dark, she can't see anything. And again, these back and forths between, like, the werewolf vision and the, what the family can see is really cool. I really enjoyed that. Like, that might be my favorite part of the movie, to be honest. Anyway, the other wolf gets in. The other wolf man person, I guess, the one that, like, turned him, I suppose, gets in there. And they fight it out. She, like, stabs this as it's overpowering her husband, but I guess as her husband starts transforming more and more, he's gaining more and more strength, and eventually they fight again, and he overpowers it, and he, like, rips this other werewolf's throat out. And then he looks on the arm, and he sees a tattoo, I guess, of, like, it's the Marine Corps, the Air Force, or something, whatever military thing. And he's like, he realizes, oh shit, this is my dad. He didn't die, he's just this thing now. Okay, so he's like, fuck, he runs out. Can't deal with it. And there's some scenes essentially of him trying to, eventually he tries to get back in the house and he's stalking the family and whatnot, and they end up going in that the little hunter booth, whatever thing it is on legs. Again, please tell me what this is in the comments, because I know there's a name for it, and I know the name for it, but it ain't coming to me right now, so I apologize. But anyway, little hunter box. They climb up that, and he follows up, and he's kind of staying below just as the sun is starting to rise, and his head pops up over, like his claws in his head, and his face is like mangled now. He's got like fangs coming up, and his face is kind of, it's changed shape a little bit, and like his cheekbones are out more, and you know, he doesn't look like your standard werewolf by any means, but he doesn't look human by any means either. I see what they were trying to go for, like kind of how like Lon Chaney in the original movie had like generally pretty human features with like slight changes to resemble that of maybe a wolf, but it was still generally a human shaped face. Well, they kind of went for that here, but made it a little bit more like body horror-ish or grotesque-ish. So it wasn't like just the fur on the face, it was, he still had like skin kind of, but it was just, he had the fangs. I don't know, you'd have to see it to see what I'm trying to say. I'm not good at explaining this, but it wasn't a pleasant looking werewolf, but it did the part for the movie it was in. Anyway, he climbs up there, and little girl is like, he doesn't want to be like this anymore, he just wants it to end. And the wife has a gun aimed at him and whatnot. I guess she grabbed one of the hunting guns or whatever that was in there, or she grabbed it when she left. I can't really remember. There's a whole scene of her trying to like start this old truck of the dad's too, before he killed the other werewolf again. You know, as per usual, I can't get a story in order, right? But yeah, there's a scene where they're trying to start the thing, and the dad is in the back of the truck, and they start it, and it's, you know, just a whole thing, and then the other werewolf shows up, and the dad goes out and fights it, and that's the first fight between the two before like the scene and before he kills it and whatever. Anyway, yeah, so that happens, and then he's like, he's hanging on the thing, and he pokes his head over, and he opens the door and rushes, and she shoots him, and he falls down and essentially dies. And the girl is like holding his forehead, and she's like, I love you, daddy, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. And that's essentially, yeah, they don't have any way out, so they start walking, and they show this absolutely gorgeous landscape of Oregon, like the mountains on the two sides and the valley in the middle, and it's the same place that he had gone hunting with his dad before, and I guess it's like full circle, and then that's the end, and the credits roll. So usually I say I'm like really bad at explaining a story, but essentially that was pretty much it. So like when it ended, I was kind of left sitting there saying, that's it, eh? Like he just turns and he attacks them, like he fights off the other wolf and he attacks them once, and he's dead, and that's it. And that is pretty much what it is. So I went with a friend, and she had said basically her thoughts on the movie were, is they had a really cool idea of what they wanted to do for like werewolf vision, and a general idea of how they wanted to show a werewolf, and then they made a movie around it. And I can kind of see what she's saying with that too. Again, like I haven't seen the original Wolfman in a long time, but I mean, in general, the focus more on the guy dealing with the transformation of the werewolf versus just, you know, the sheer ferocity of a werewolf attacking people was the focus. So in that sense, I would say it is kind of like a, I don't know, a cover version of that, but in a different style. Now, was it good though? It was all right. I think I liked it better than the Wolfman remake that they put out a while ago with like Anthony Hopkins and stuff, only because that one was so long that I don't really remember it. I think I like partially fell asleep during it, so maybe it's phenomenal. I'll have to rewatch that one too. But visually, it was really cool, this movie. I would say watch it for the visuals, just like for the wolf vision alone. That was really neat. But I mean, it's a pretty short story. The movie itself, I think, is only like an hour and 40 minutes or something too. So, I mean, it didn't need to be longer than that either. But it was more on the atmosphere of the film and everything than the story itself. So, I mean, it was good. It was good enough. It wasn't as good as the Nosferatu remake by any means, but it was good, and I see where they're going for. What are the strong points? Again, the visuals. The werewolf vision is like top notch. I think the design of the werewolf itself, like the Wolfman, again, I see what they were kind of doing with like the general shape of like the Lon Chaney Wolfman, but I think, I don't know, they could have gone a little bit more wolfy than that, because this seemed more just like a human that was like deformed. It had like the upward fangs, but that's like, and like the claws, but essentially it just looked kind of like a dude that was like mutated. So I mean, I would have done a little bit more with that to make it resemble a werewolf, but creative choices, that's fine. What am I gonna rate it? Man, honestly, I wasn't super impressed. I'm gonna give it like a 6 point. Oh man, if I give it, I know I ranked some movies earlier a little bit higher than I should have, so if it ranks lower than something that should be lower and it looks stupid, whatever, I'll just eat that bullet. But I'll give it a 6.33. I mean, I'll give it a 6.3 repeating. There we go. So 6.3 with an infinite number of threes. That just seems about where it should be. Do I recommend it? Check it out, I guess. Like I said, the visuals were cool for the wolf vision, but I mean, it's not a movie that I can see myself coming back to and watching again and being super excited about. The only time I'd watch it again probably is if someone seemed interested in it and wanted to see it and I showed it to them. So 6.3 repeating. That's the official rating of Wolfman 2025. Yeah. Check it out or don't. You're not missing a hell of a lot, but again, the visual scene for that is kind of cool. If they eventually put a clip of like the wolf vision on YouTube, you could just check that out and it's pretty much good enough. But yeah, we'll leave it at that. Later, folks.